Alrighty. Hello, everybody. Give things a second to get started. I'll make sure that the stream is working properly, but welcome back to another Future Group Friday. It has been a couple of weeks since I last streamed. I was out of state at a couple of weddings, which was a good time. But we're back, and let's get some work done. Make sure the audio is actually working on this thing. Nice. Actually sounds pretty good. All right. Good enough for me. So let's give it a minute for anybody who wants to join in to do so. The schedule for today is going to be development updates to start with, as usual. Kind of go through what's been happening the last week or so. Then we will switch over to canny board tickets that have come in the last week. Maybe go back to some older ones if we think that's something we want to review again. I do at some point want to get to all the under review stuff. Maybe we'll tuck that in at the end. But the main focus of this week is going to be rebuilding an older spec that we had from a couple of years ago, actually. Let me see what the... not that long. January 2024. And I just got a DM recently about this. Somebody is hoping to have something similar be built, so I think it'd be a good chance to kind of put it more into a modern context and kind of make sure we have the same details, but with the way the site is right now, basically. So that's the main focus. Obviously, any Q&A that comes in as we go, take care of that. And if you ever have things that you would like us to be doing during this time in the future, you can just shoot me a DM and let me know. But looks like, looks like we're good to go. Okay, so development updates from the last week or so. I'm just gonna pull up the channel. Again, it was a little bit slow because I was out of town, so nothing major on my end to report, but there was still some stuff coming in so the last, actually it was 2 weeks, so I guess I do have some updates, because the last time we streamed was on the 9th, so let me go way back and talk about that. Main focus right now is just kind of wrapping up ranked. Obviously I've been saying that we're close for a couple of months now. It's kind of one of those problems where everything that you do, you realize there are smaller and smaller problems before you can actually cross over into being done. So hopefully we're getting toward the end of that and we can actually end season 0, start season 1, get those rewards out and move on to the shop. But since the 9th of this month, we have got a final fix to some voiding issues in launchers. Launchers being the place that you go right before a ranked game starts. Is it getting a black screen on stream? Hold on, I'm seeing a black screen. Sorry, give me 1 second. If it is live, something doesn't look right on the... No, there it goes. Okay. Yeah, it's working. Okay. So we are having some more issues with players in launchers just not getting redirected in. There's still a lingering issue related to overtime where it'll kind of flash that there's a player in overtime and go back and forth. So that still needs to be fixed, but other things related to that were patched up. We've got more effort into server balancing. We realized that there's still a possibility of different servers kind of taking all the games that we're on at once. So for example, we have 5 Chicago servers. And sometimes you were getting like 3 ranked games on Chicago 4 instead of spreading them across the Chicagos. So a little bit more balancing there is ready to go for the next release. We've got a finalized the this is my last game thing. Just kind of saying this is the last. I think I talked about that in the last stream, so I'll skip over that. Some more issues with the synchronization between the leaderboard and the actual score that somebody has in ranked. So sometimes you finish a game, it looks like you went down even though you won the game, so you should have gone up. The back end is always correct with that, so you're still getting placed correctly in your next games, but the front end display is still a little wacky, so we're getting that fixed up. What else? Oh, we have a fix on the way for an issue with Box2D. Box2D being the physics engine that we use. There's some maps used by the Gravity community that I'm not going to tell you how they do it because people will make more of them, but if you do a certain thing, it just crashes the entire server. And so we have a fix for that to make sure that that stops happening, because that's not ideal. That's independent from an upgrade to the physics engine. We do have that in progress as well, but it's a little more complicated than we were hoping it would be. So we have the fix separate, and then the actual upgrade will come later when it's ready. Some more changes to power-up stuff for group settings. Some extra tools for the map test committee to talk about kind of ranked selection rates and making sure which maps are being put against one another, so we can give them better data so they can give us better maps in the long run. Some more gravity related group settings that we'll talk about in the next release. We do have an ongoing discussion right now, and feel free to weigh in on this later if you're watching the recording. There's a bit of a discrepancy right now between how mutes and bans are handled from public games, private groups, all that stuff. So the mod team is currently discussing just to make sure things are consistent, because right now, for example, if you're banned from Tag Pro, you cannot access any part of the Tag Pro website. If you are muted, you can still access everything, but you cannot chat in public games. But you also cannot chat in private games. Then you have personal mutes that are only for you. So there's a bit of a, not everything adds up. There are like 15 different like subcategories that we're talking through right now to make sure things are consistent. Just making sure that when we remove somebody's chat, we're removing it from the places where it actually needs to be removed and not overextending beyond that. So that's not in yet, but it's just being discussed. We've got an issue with spectators joining ranked games again. That should be fixed up. That was a quick one. Oh, a fix that I'm happy about, the flare log. So right now on the flare log, if you look at the homepage, there are those 3 most recent flares that were earned by people. So if you go to the homepage right now, it's 2 people earned the pencil, 1 person earned the penguin flare. Oh, that's cute. Waddle earned the penguin flare. But you might have noticed if you look closely that sometimes the order of that switches. Like the top one is actually the most recent, and then the bottom one's the most recent. Like it'll flip sometimes. So we have that fix for that, and then a fix for how frequently that's refreshing, which was causing issues on the back end because it's a special way that we have that set up from a long time ago. So that's being improved, which is good. We've got some minor group bugs being fixed about session stuff, just to make sure you actually get into the game that you wanted to get into from your private group. We've got fixes to how we keep track of who is and is not connected to a game, which will help with some synchronization issues. Flare stuff again. Oh, some fixes to ranked accounts when you delete or merge your account. So this came up during season 0. The fix was a little more complicated than I would have liked, but basically we're just making sure that if you sign up for ranked with an account, you can't just delete that account and start over, basically. Similarly, you can't just merge that account into another one and then start over with a new one. The point being that if you play ranked, we want you to have that skill score that you've earned. You shouldn't just get a free reset to start from the bottom. That's what smurfing is, and that's what we're trying to limit. So some fixes on the way for that coming for season 1, or at least for the next release. That can't be it. I thought I did something else there. Well, I've scrolled to the bottom. I feel like I missed something along the way. But oh, that's right. I submitted tickets, but they're not done yet, related to the stuff that we talked about at our last stream. We had talked about making sure that people who are inactive are not showing up on the leaderboards. And then similarly, the players who are not active are not being counted towards tier totals. So we have those 8 tiers right now, 1 through 8. If you have a bunch of inactive players, you kind of get some bloat, and games are harder to create because you don't actually have enough players to create games with people around you. So working on contracting and expanding tiers based on the number of players who are actually active and playing. And there were some minor tweaks to it from when we had the stream, but the core issues that we were trying to solve are all still in there. So nothing major enough to be worth reporting right this minute. And I think that covers the majority of what has happened. A couple other tickets came in for things to do, but nothing worth talking about right now. So let us move on to our candy board. So I've got it up already in front of us. Since last week, looks we only had 4, so we'll run through these real quick, and then we'll get over to that spec that I was talking about. And obviously, if you have anything else you'd like us to do on the way, drop a message in the chat. So, spectating while you wait option is not working. I think this was a bug report. Oh, I didn't add feature requests in. Hello. Okay, there are more than 4. Are we sorting by new? What's the date on these? August 9th. Okay, so yeah, we covered that already. That's not happening. If I had a... Okay, so if I tag a flag carrier with this, I should get the pup for the remaining duration. That's an interesting idea. So they're saying that if a flag carrier has a power-up, and you pop that flag carrier, that you should steal the power-up that they have instead of them popping and respawning with that power-up. I don't think this works for the base game, and they kind of touched on it here already. With the rolling bomb, the whole point is that it stops you from tagging them. It just feels a little bit overpowered, because all this is really doing is it's buffing the Tag Pro by allowing you to steal somebody else's juke juice. And the Tag Pro is already arguably the strongest power-up that we have for now. I don't know if that's actually true. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out if I'm being swayed by OK Then's recent Reddit post talking about the Tag Pro being too strong, or trying to nerf it by reducing the ability to be tagged by it right after it spawns. Is that because it's too good, or is that just a personal preference? I'm not sure. I can see this as a group option. I'm just not sure how to word it necessarily. You'd have to say that if you pop a player and that player has... Yes. I don't know. I'm thinking like olden days. Tag Pro was obviously the strongest. The rolling bomb is definitely on the up and up. And then you have your Rack G-Man diehard Juke Juice fans. So I don't know if I could really make the case for it right now. But bottom line, I'm not sure the Tag Pro needs to get stronger is kind of where I'm going to settle my argument for that one. But back to this, it's saying that if you pop somebody and the person that you popped has a power-up, that you take that power-up instead of them respawning with it. And I don't know that I would want that necessarily, but I also don't know if I have a great argument against adding it as a group option. So I think we're just going to add it as a suggestion for a group option. I can't promise when it would be prioritized, but yeah, good enough. So bring over our ticket here. Add group option to steal power up on pop. And then we're going to say the relevant candy post here. Got to make sure I add the candy post, or they'll think that I thought this up and then I'll get yelled at. So, up stealing is here. Oh no, I've lost my copy paste for what to say. That's all right. We'll make it again. Relevant candy post, add private group option for, what would you call this? Allows stealing power-ups or something, or for stealing power-ups disabled by default. When enabled, if a player performs an action. So I guess my question here would gates count as popping another player, right? If you sit on a button and somebody walks into your gate, do you steal their power up for popping them? I would lean toward no, but I don't, like, you still popped them. Like, what's the difference? I guess I would have to have options for both of them. So it would have to be disabled by default, options for all, enabled all pops, and enabled direct contact, I guess. Is there any differentiation between tagged by a player directly and popped by a gate? I'm not 100% confident, but I believe yes, because what you can do is, well, what happens is it's all contact based. It's the way Box 2D works. So everything that you see on the map is a thing, and when anything is touching any other thing, a contact is registered. So what happens when a thing is a ball and the other thing is a gate, it looks to see what are the properties of that gate, and then it assigns it to the person holding the button and all that. But it would register that the thing that you contacted with was a gate and not a player. So all you would have to do is say, when you are popped, who were you popped by? Were you popped by a player? If so, give them the power up. Were you popped by a gate? If so, don't give them the power up, or do if you have enabled all pops here. So I think it's possible. This is the kind of thing that if we get there and it's like, actually it's not possible, then whatever, we move on. But when enabled, if a player performs an action which results in another player popping, if the popped player is in possession of a power up, transfer that power up to the popping player. No, not to the player who popped. This wording is awful. This is terrible. The player performs an action which results in another player popping. If the popped player is possessing a power up, just so many P's, transfer that power up to the player who popped them. If enabled direct contact only is enabled, is the so bad. Is the chosen opposite? This is terrible. All right. For enabled direct contact, do not transfer the power up if the player is popped by a gate. I think that, is there anything else they can pop you that would be player initiated? Spikes don't have a player assigned as a reward for that. Gravity wells, nobody gets credit for the pop. So I think that works. I think that works. This is close enough that we can look into it more when this eventually is a priority. For now, it's obviously not high enough up on the totem pole there. But it's a funny suggestion. I don't hate it. I think it opens up some options for some mini games potentially. Because you think about if you have like a juke juice and you have the length be indefinite or whatever, and then you have a flag carrier, and then you have like that free-for-all option that Spherite had brought up at our last meeting, where it's if you pop somebody, you can pop teammates basically. You would have everybody on the red team, and you would have one flag. Teammates can pop each other in a single juke juice. The flag carrier has the juke juice, and then anytime they get popped, the flag carrier gains the juke juice. So you would have a permanent juke juice for the flag carrier that transfers to the next flag carrier, and everybody can pop everybody else. Like, I can see that being a fun group mode. So it opens up some doors. So I'm okay with this suggestion. I think it's got potential. So we'll put that in, and we will move on. Oh no, I gotta respond here. Status planned. Let me get up my little notepad so I can only type this once. Okay. Similar ticket with differentiation between popped by a player and popped by a gate has been submitted internally, has not yet been assigned to a developer. My God. Be included when time allows. I can't believe all the P's drive me insane. All right, that's good. We'll copy that over. Save that and move on. Add this to the rotating tips and tricks message when loading between games. Number 1 rule of ranked: don't bring it outside of the game. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I'm not super sold on the wording there, but I guess the idea that whatever happens in the game stays in the game kind of thing. I'm not opposed to that. So what do we have right now? I can't remember what we have. There's a full list here. Let's see if I can pull that up real quick. We have... Oh, there's so many. I forgot that we added a bunch to this. Holy crap. We have 70 different things that come up. Jeez, okay. The closest thing I see right now is getting mad at your teammates won't fix things. Try to give them tips to improve instead. That feels like a completely different thing. Let's see. Trying to look up anything similar that we have. I don't see anything like this one, so I'm okay. I'm okay with this. Community contest it up for messages to add stuff there. Yeah, we could make that a little more open. I think I'm okay with this though. Let us add loading You tell me one of my 2 viewers is a spam bot? That's sad. How do I get rid of them? Go away. There we go. Sad. Okay. So add loading screen message. About keeping the game in the game. Wording TBD. Add message similar to. What the hell? I can't type to save my life today. Similar to that. Or what happens in game stays in game. Don't take it outside the lobby. Kind of something like that. That's enough of a starting point for now. Let me get the feedback tab. I mean, it's an easy addition. We just got to figure out the exact wording on that. So I'll bring that to the steer co, see what anyone thinks about it, and we'll get it in. That would be an enhancement. Create. And then we'll say planned. Determine the exact wording. And then don't type that out because I have it right here. Oh, I forgot the exclamation point. Oh well. Oh well. Okay. Moving on. Display pre-made chat macros on screen to remind and encourage players to use an underused feature. They're barely used outside of warning people that pubs are about to spawn. Tag Pro should visually display the chat macros on the side of the screen so an underutilized feature can be used. So they're saying they want to have... Oh, I'm not sure I like that. By default, you say you want like... Because I'm thinking about it, if I'm a new player, I join the game for the first time, and I see this on the side of my screen. I don't know what a flag carrier is. I don't know. I mean, I can probably figure out what an enemy flag carrier means. We need another ball on defense. I don't know. I don't think these things are said often enough to really justify that. Also, you have to think about, for new players, W is taken by the default key press settings, WASD. is yeah, also if some players play full screen or they're zoomed in, yeah, you might not have any space at all on the side here. I think we could be doing more to promote the fact that chat macros exist. I'm not sure that's the solution though. Stream is choppy, says Josh. Huh. My bitrate's not moving around too much, is it? Grant, are you getting chopped too? I am on Wi-Fi, I'll admit. Oh, my Wi-Fi is actually down a bar. What's going on there? Sorry about that. I'm not really sure I have a good solution for it right now. If it's persisting, let me know. I'll see if I can switch over to Ethernet. But there's some chop. Shoot. All right. Let me close a couple of things. See if that makes any difference. Hopefully that'll do something to it. Oh, the chop's on my webcam? It's probably just my computer being unhappy in general. All right, anyway, with this, I think, like I was saying, I think we can do more to promote the chat macros exist. I'm just not sure that this is the place or the way to do that. Nothing else is moving. Oh, I can move my mouse a little more. Sorry, I don't know if I have that. Yeah, that's a fair point. Everything's static on my screen. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to click on that. Nobody spends money on this. I don't know why it shows us that. Whole stream choppy. Okay, let me. Oh, it got better because I just closed stuff. All right, I think having VS Code open and Discord open was slowing it down. So, all right, victory. That worked. Okay, good. So anyway, I'm gonna go with no on this suggestion. I think we can do more, but I'm not sure this is the way to go about it. Agreed that we could be doing more to promote. Sorry, is my keyboard like super loud? I didn't think about that. I can adjust the mic slightly. To promote macros and using them, but on screen would be too intrusive, and may not work for players with smaller screens. If you have similar suggestions for out of game ways to promote macros, please create another ticket. There we go. Okay, there's that. Where did it go? Okay, add a dislike option for feature requests. Sometimes it's a popular feature request, ton of upvotes here. This is a canny limitation. We don't really control the like everything you're looking at on my screen right now is a separate company that has a product that they offer. They don't offer down votes as far as I'm aware. So I'm just gonna say canny does not offer a downvote feature. If you are not in favor of a request, please leave a comment saying as much and encourage others to like that comment. Also feel free to message Cheese Doodle if you don't like something. I think that's good enough for me. I do want to finish reading this though. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I just unfortunately don't have a way of doing it. I like to think that I'm pretty on top of the things that are controversial, but definitely if you don't think I'm seeing something, let me know. Happy to discuss more. Where'd we go? Spectator chat. I think we have a ticket for spectator chat, do we not? This came up somewhat recently, if I'm not mistaken. We talked about how, because of the delay, you can't have spectators chatting with players, but we can have players spectators chatting with other spectators because everyone's on the same delay. I'm not seeing a ticket for this though. Hold on, I could have sworn this came up. Well, I'll be. We don't have a ticket for it. Let's fix that. I swear we had something for this, but I don't see it, so... Guess I made a similar suggestion in June 2025 that was closed. Was it about spectators to players? Because again, that's not going to work. It's not possible with the delay that we have, but I have no reason not to let spectators chat with other spectators. Oh, it's looking at me. You were just reading. I got to finish reading these damn things before I start chatting. Yeah, I'm gonna add a ticket for this. I think that this is different enough that we can. We know what we want. Let's just make the ticket, and then we can move on. We're going to say new issue. Add spectator. Whoops, spectator to spectator chat. Currently, all spectators of a public game are on an equal delay. It'd be dope if the chat was included in the replays. Yeah, I'm not sure what the... I would assume we could do that. I'm not sure why we wouldn't be able to. Because the replay file, you would have to know which packet that chat message was sent during, but that's easy because we are just delaying the packet, so we know exactly what packet they were seeing when they sent that message. So that, yeah, I think that, yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. On an equal delay, this prevents us from creating any features related to spectators chatting with players. Instead, allow spectators to chat. The one potential hiccup that I'm trying to think of right now is how the players are connected to the game. I'm trying to remember if they are actually connected to the game socket, because the way that chat works, you have to send a message out to the server, and the server has to say, okay, I'm sending this out to everybody else. I just want to make sure off the top of my head that everybody's connected to the same server when they're watching a replay or watching a game live on that delay. I think that they are. So I'm going to continue with the ticket. If that ends up not being the case, I'll update you guys at a future stream, but I think this is totally doable. With other spectators via the same socket connection. Seem like they would have to be. No. So one of the ways we had talked about building the delayed spectate initially had to do with setting up a fake socket so that the game was on its own doing its own thing, and then everybody who was spectating was connected to a different one. So say you have two game processes and everyone's playing the game over here and you're spectating, you connect to a different one and the game just sends your fake game packets as it goes. If that was the case, then you would only be able to talk to your fake one. You would never actually connect to the actual game, and then everybody else who's spectating would have their own fake one. I don't think that we went that route though, which is why I think we're okay with what we're doing here. Isn't everything basically like an invisible group? No. No, very much no. Instead, allow spectators to chat with other spectators via the same socket connection. If possible, chat messages can be displayed in the replay available for all to see. Spectator chat should have its own unique color to differentiate. Probably purple? I keep gravitating toward purple. Let me know if I'm doing too much on the purple stuff. Like I had the flare thing where I added purple, took purple for the ranked button in there. If I'm over purpling things, let me know. But I think purple is unique enough compared to the other chat colors that we have that it would be okay. I feel like this is too short of a spec for what I'm trying to describe, but I also feel like this covers it pretty well. Anything I'm missing? Anything obvious? Trash talk we don't have to worry about. If spectators want to trash talk other spectators, that's fine. If they break any chat rules, the mods can handle it the same way that mods always handle things. Add group chat. Yeah, so we were just talking about adding group chat to replays as well. I think I messaged, if possible, chat messages can be displayed in the replay available for all to see. I have no problem with that. Red and use orange close to yellow. Yellow and use green for announce. Yeah, green for mods too. Blue is taken? Oh, by the blue team, right? Yeah, I'm gonna stick with purple for now. we can review that later if we need to. So let me just read the spec one more time just to make sure we're not missing anything. Yeah, probably best not to make visible to players in game. Yeah, okay, so we'll include relevant candy post to this. Spectator chat. Oh, I see the Gasol thing was it ghost spectators? No, that was a swag suggestion from longer back. No. I'm not sure. Okay, anyway. Relevant candy post. I think that is good enough. Blue team this whole thing. Okay, this would be an enhancement. So I'll create that. All right, planned. Ticket for allowing spectators to chat with other spectators, but not players due to spectating delay, has been submitted internally. Chat will be displayed in replay files if possible. I think a couple people here weighed in on that. I think that's the right way to go about it. And then our usual, it's not yet been assigned, will be included when time allows. Boom. Okay. 5 levels of map vote. Love, like, neutral, dislike, hate. 3 levels just isn't enough. Some maps I want to double the weight of my opinion for a like and a dislike. So this has come up in the past. This isn't the first time that this has been mentioned. Unfortunately for the suggestion here, the map test committee already kind of decided not to go this route, and I think the future group had a big role in that decision as well. The problem with systems like this, I agree that it's nice to give a little bit more nuance to your opinion and say that you love it or you like it. There's a difference between those two things. But what systems like this do with public voting is they cater toward extreme opinions. And so if you have a bunch of players who hate something and a bunch of players who are like, it's all right, what you're going to do is you're going to force players who, if they want their vote to actually count for anything, to just go for the more drastic option. So it takes away some nuance, even though it feels like it's adding nuance, because players just start voting polarized, basically, and players who are actually voting the way that they feel get kind of washed out by that. So it's not really viable, unfortunately. What we have as a countermeasure to that you might have noticed is the favorite and the least favorite buttons, and I'm outing myself for what I have least favorite in here, but basically you have you like it or you don't like it, and then damn, I wish I hadn't shown this. Now I'm gonna get wrecked for this, but so you could say this is my favorite map. So you have a limited number of maps that you can have those polarized opinions on, so that players aren't just constantly picking the extreme for everything that they have a vague opinion on, basically. So go ahead, rep me for that in the comments later if you'd like. Feel free. But for now, we're going to say no on this. Has been discussed in the past. Unfortunately, unfortunately, a system. What did I vote on Wildflower? I can't even remember now. Favorited. All right. My voting, my personal voting, is I vote on whether or not I think a map is productive to the rotation, not whether or not I actually like it. And I think the Wildflower is different enough that it is still worthy of inclusion despite its lower rate, because I think it forces people to think differently, and I think that that is a good thing to have in a rotation. I seem to not be alone on this one, so I've got my backings. But anyway, as been discussed in fast, unfortunately, a system like this amplifies polarized opinions at the expense of thoughtful ones. The current least favorite system aims to address this. See the Maps tab on the home page if you are not familiar with these extra options. Okay, that's good. Increased immunity. People who have an excellent sense of humor are granted 0.5 seconds of immunity instead of 0.25 after grabbing a flag. Okay, I think for closing this, I'm going to be relegated to the 0.25 for my lack of humor, but I don't think that this is a viable solution. Unfortunately, the development team lacks any humor, so this would be unfair to us. And we'll close it. Create a Tag Pro iframe. Make Tag Pro embeddable so I can play it at work and not have to worry about my URL being tracked by my company's IT. Yeah, okay, Bash kind of handled this one for me. You're still accessing the website when you access the website. If you wanted to interact, you'd have to, I think they're saying they want to be on a different website, and that website is kind of projecting Tag Pro, but I don't know enough about how that works. I don't think this is viable. The fact that Bash is saying no, he knows these kinds of things, so I'm gonna side with him on this one, and I think just see comment from Bash, and I'm gonna keep that away from me because I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, I think we have a bug report here. Spam escape stops you from joining game. Why would you do that though? Yeah, that's kind of my thought on it too. The group, I'm sure expecting. Don't do that if you want. I think I'm gonna. I don't know. Is it a bug? If it's poor use of options, I feel like it kind of is still a bug. If it's a thing, like you shouldn't be able to not load into the game by clicking a button that we offer. I don't know. Does anyone have any thoughts on this one? I'm kind of torn. It's not ideal use, but also why are you doing this? It's a bug the same way Bash mentioned turning off your PC prevents even, but yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it's. I mean, what I'm thinking of though is like on the taking it seriously side of things. If you have like a rate limit, or if you click it too many times and it stops accepting the key press, things like that. Like we do have ways to stop it from happening. But yeah, I guess the solution is don't do that. Yeah, I think I'm gonna put in a ticket to just kind of, well, because you don't want to limit key presses because you're pressing like your actual arrow keys very quickly or whatever you use. I feel like this is still deserving of a ticket. I've kind of, if you're pressing non-movement keys, it's not about rate, it's about timing. Isn't timing just rate? What are those not the same word in this context? It's like it's the frequency that you're doing a thing at, how close together they are, how fast. Pretty sure spamming escape specifically shortcut stop loading the page in browsers is what Bash is saying. Same method I used to try to read articles before the paywall pops up. It can happen if you only press it once. What happens if you only press it once? Pressing escape once? I'm sorry, I'm not following here. My encoding is overloaded. Consider turning down video settings. Sorry if I'm getting choppy. I'm gonna leave this one untouched for now. I'm gonna have a chat with Bash about it. We will. Oh, I see what you're saying. I think. Okay, I'm following you now. Okay, so it's not. I was misunderstanding the source for the issue. So this is as the game is trying to load the page. If you press escape at the right moment, something will break. You're saying if you press a bunch of times, you're more likely to have a key press that lines up with the critical moment when you shouldn't have been pressing escape. It does not have to do with how many times you pressed it before that. Interesting. All right, I'm going to leave this open. I want to chat with Bash about it, but I see what you're getting at with that. So, well, still funny though. Why would you do that though? If there are 48 people playing, maybe the rest of the people got banned. What? I may have voted. Okay. I may have voted in previous games, but if I won and got 4 of the 4 points we scored, how can I be accused of vote? I'm not sure what this person's trying to get at. If you worked against, then you worked against. It doesn't matter what else you did in the game. You still, like, those are 2 different things that you did. Just gonna direct them to the support site. All ban appeals can be handled at support@qualities.com. Let me just pull up a link for that. And boom, get that out of my face. Special event Super Mario Tag Pro Racing. Set up a Tag Pro like SNES racetrack. Oh boy, this is a whole different game. We have Rainbow Road. That's pretty close. I'm not sure that character select is really in our wheelhouse, so I don't think it's really viable. Character select, while fun, not viable with our current infrastructure. There are racing maps in private groups, including Rainbow Road, which is about close as we can offer at this time. I mean, that'd be fun. We don't really have a way. Like, this would be a whole thing about copyright too, where we're getting dinged for that probably if it gets anywhere. And then you've got issues of they're not really doing anything. It's just like an overlay. So you could just play it right now and get a script where you put those things on top of it. I think that would work for what you're trying to do, but I'm just not sure it really fits into the game as a whole right this minute, unfortunately. So ELO updating incorrectly. I think we have tracked this already. Yeah, this is in progress. Updates to come in the next release on this topic. It's there. And then matchmaking broken. Okay, so this came up yesterday. I told them I was going to respond here, so I want to spend a little bit of time on it. Hopefully not more than a couple minutes. But I tried to play ranked pubs the first time. I was in queue for 3 hours while ranked games were being played the whole time. I did not get into a single game. So what's happening here is exactly why we spent our entire last stream working on the tier balancing and the inactive handling, because this is a player who has not played ranked before. So they entered in at the very bottom, tier 7 or 8. I forget which one we have new players start at. And because there weren't any players down there actually playing the game, they couldn't get a game. So this is exactly what we were doing, trying to fix. So this is an in-progress fix right now. And the answer is due to the current lack of inactive handling and tier rebalancing / distribution, lower tiers are currently hosting players who do not play Tag Pro often, or at least do not play ranked Tag Pro. Why did I capitalize that? Ranked Tag Pro often. Lower tiers. This leads to lower tiers unable to find games because there are no players online near your tier. This is currently being fixed and will no longer be an issue in the next release. In the meantime, casual while you wait is the best we can offer, and hoping that enough players log on for a game to be created. So not ideal, but again, this is exactly why we spent 2 hours on this thing last time, because it's a problem, and now we can see exactly why it's a problem, because players can't get games, and obviously that is bad. So glad that was there so we could follow up on it. Hopefully we're almost done with that release. We have 3 more tickets. I finished one today. I'm currently stuck on an issue with MongoDB sessions. There's a whole thing about if you're trying to update several different unrelated things at the same time, but you don't want, like, say you have 6 different updates and you want them all to be done at the same time. You don't want there to ever be a situation where half of them get done and half of them don't get done, because then you're in this weird half state of how do you fix the other half without redoing the first half and maybe messing something up there. So there's something called a session where you can say all of these things that I want done, do them on their own, but until we've confirmed that all of them actually happen, don't do any of them. And so if 3 of them work and 3 of them fail, they'll just all fail together. Nothing will actually happen. And so I'm having an issue right now with the way that I've done that. Mongo has its own session that's happening in the background, and my session's working perfectly fine, but afterward it tries to hijack my session and do something else that I don't want, and I can't get it to work. So I'm gonna have to talk to Bash about that and figure out. This is like way more technical than I'm qualified to be handling right now, so I'm gonna ask him for some help on that one and see what we can do. But yeah, so that once that's done, the tier rebalancing obviously is still in progress, and then we should be good to go for the next release. So that's the status of the development stuff. That is our candy board stuff. So now I want to switch gears entirely to a DM that I got from a player a few days ago. They were talking about a couple of things, mainly centered around the gravity group that's going on right now. For those who aren't familiar, there's a 24/7 gravity group that is on where you can join in. There's a bot that pulls out different gravity maps. You can select the map that you like, the server that works for you, and you can just play gravity maps either by yourself, with friends, whatever works for you. Part of that community has shifted a little bit toward time trial stuff. And for those who aren't familiar with that, time trial basically being you're on a map and you have to score or finish the map as quickly as possible. You have a leaderboard. I think, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, I think Bambi made a pop-up site that has leaderboards for all the different maps that they have. I believe it was Dad and Inspire put together a long list of vetted maps that are actually possible with difficulty levels. It's a pretty cool thing they have going on. And so a player reached out to me recently saying that, hey, we have all this stuff already in progress where people are playing these maps. We have a scoreboard tracking everybody's times and all that. The maps have been vetted to be possible and everything. It would be great if we could integrate that with the game and have a little bit of a speedrunning community. And my response to them was, I'm perfectly in favor of that, but it reminds me a lot of a different spec that we created a couple of years ago when we had introduced the racing maps initially. So it's a similar premise where we're saying, if you can finish 3 laps around this map in a certain amount of time, make a leaderboard, all of that, we thought that would be a really fun thing to add with racing. Unfortunately, the developer who it was assigned to had to step away at the time, and so it never got done. But we do have this spec here, which is basically a time trial leaderboard. And so I was talking to this player about their suggestion for a time trial leaderboard and thinking, well, actually, this would be a great way to just kind of add the two of them together, and they could kind of be a combined spec. I'm actually pretty motivated for this one. I feel like time trials are a really fun way to promote community engagement. It's great because you can play it on your own if you have to. So during low population hours, you can still do something and still have something to show for it. And it's just a good way to encourage people to be competitive and play the game. So I like what they're going for. I think that it could be a combined thing with gravity and non-gravity together. So to talk about the spec that has already been created first, just to set the scene for everybody, we were talking about adding a time trial tab to the leaderboard, and you can see this is old because there's no ranked tab here. And then inside of that tab, you have all the default racing maps, and then maybe more maps on top of that. And you can see the map on hover, kind of like the maps tab, and then a button tab. A little bit more technical with this one, but basically what it is you could go to a group, or you could click a preset button that we have set up. It would take you alone to a map. You would complete the map as fast as possible, and it would take your time, and it would try to send it to a leaderboard. And so if you had the top time, it would put you at the top, and you would have like a top 3 or a top 5 for each map that's out there, and then some flares. And so we had a little spec up here with some little race cars that we thought were really cute, and I think that we could continue these for sorry, this is really tiny on the stream, isn't it? Let me try to zoom in on these guys. These are 16 by 16, and we were thinking that if you were in like first place, you would get, I forget which one was first and which one was last, but basically if you're in first place for a map, you'd get like a gold car, second, third, fourth, fifth kind of thing. Maybe it was the opposite. No, the racing stripe was probably first, but anyway, that was the general thing that we were going for at the time. It wasn't fully fleshed out, but it didn't have to be because it was going to be kind of a figure it out as we go kind of situation. So what I would like us to do now on stream is modify this so that we can add in the opportunity for gravity maps to be a part of this spec, keeping the same rewards. We can still have the race car. I think that works fine for time trials, even for gravity. And then we can move on. So just to clarify, the way that we were awarding the flares in the original spec was that if you were in first place on any map, you would get a first place flare. We're just going to stick with yellow for the conversation. If you were in second place for any map, etc. But we don't want it to only be the case where players who are the best can earn flares, because then you might have like 10 players total who have the top times for all of the maps and nobody else gets a chance. That's kind of lame. So we also wanted to have standards for each map. And so the way that we would do this is you wouldn't add in 100 maps at once. You would add in like 5 maps to start, and players would try their best, do whatever. And you would say, same thing, if you're in the top 5 spots, you get one of those flares. But based on those initial times that came in, we would also have like a threshold that says that if you are above this time, or you're faster than this time, you're in the top tier, second tier, third tier thing. And if you cross that same threshold for every map, you can still earn that flare. So maybe you're not the best time on any map, but maybe you've crossed that top threshold for all the maps. You could still earn one of those flares. And that way players who aren't super good, but they're good enough to at least finish all the maps, could still have a chance to earn these flares. And I think that would be a good way to stay engaged. And if you add more maps, players then would come back and they would try for the best times and all that. So I thought it would be really fun, kind of aside to the game as it is now, but it's not really encroaching on anything either. I think it's a good addition, and gravity is just a part of that now. So if you have objections with the premise, definitely let me know now in the chat. I see we have about 10 people watching on, which is great. So yeah, I remember when I remember reporting a problem when it came to tag pro groups. It was a nice little bug that allowed 2 group leaders to exist. It would be nice if co-leaders were a thing in tag pro groups. Okay, that's unrelated. That suggestion could definitely go into the feedback tab though. So feel free to head to Tag Pro, go to the feedback tab and put that suggestion in. There's nothing stopping us from adding a feature like that in the future. But for now, we're focused on this guy here. And so I'm just going to go silent for a second, read this to remind myself what the premise was, and then we'll get going. Okay, so the first thing I'm seeing is this is very tailored to racing maps. So we're going to have to change that. I'd like some thoughts on this one. Do we have a problem with map specific settings? Because I know that some gravity maps need certain rules to be played. And with racing, you could have it standardized where you're saying that every map is the same settings basically. But if you have racing maps and you have gravity maps, obviously those need to have different settings. Do you keep it where you have 2 very clearly defined categories with distinct settings between the 2 of them? Or do you say that within all the maps that there are, each map has its own settings that can be submitted? Because I'm thinking along like the Mario Maker line of thinking, where if you want a new map, it has its own rules and then players play that map as it is. Yeah, so that's what I was thinking. My follow-up question was, how do we display that to players to say that, okay, when you join into this map, it's going to be 1 jump as opposed to 2 jumps for gravity, kind of stuff like that. I think that's easy enough to do on hover. So you would have the hovering over the name of the map generates a preview symbol to the Maps tab and the settings that the time trial will be completed with. I think that covers that well enough for me. Yeah, that works. So every default racing map in addition to, we'll just say gravity maps. I do want to make a sub point here that says maps should not all be added at once. Likely no more than 5 at a time to avoid oversaturation of the pool. You also need some way to denote games played with the valid settings in the backend. No, so what we would do, and that's a very good point, instead of saying here is your group preset, go ahead and play it, it would be click this button on the leaderboards tab or the time trials tab, and that takes you straight into the game. And so you don't have a chance to change the settings. You get the settings that the game gives you. So we know everything's vetted from the start. You can be the only person in there. You won't have people doing things like in the old time trial thing that was run by Q42 in the North American competitive server. He had a category where it was solo and group runs. And you would have to make sure that you watch the replay, because if you had a group run, you could make it a lot faster because you could have somebody waiting on a bomb to knock you ahead through a wall, stuff like that. So we would need to make sure you're the only person in that game to make sure you don't have situations of players cheating, using teammates to help them, stuff like that. So that's a very good point. We want to make sure that we're vetting these properly, but I think the best way to do that is just to control everything that happens from I want to play to I am in a game. Don't leave any ambiguity for things to go wrong there. So where do we clarify that? Because I don't think what I just said is actually in the spec, so I do want to add that. Let's see. So hovering over the map, name of the map generates, yeah, okay, so in the tab, every map. So there is a start trial or play now type button next to each entry. Clicking it will load the player directly into the game with the proper preset settings for that game do not allow players to select their own settings. Question in the chat. Yeah, yeah. What's the point of having moderators have the ability to remove them? There is no point with that change that we're making right here. This is an older spec where I think it was more along the lines of letting players do their own group stuff, and so we were also thinking about like the 2 players getting in, stuff like that. So yeah, that hopefully will be fixed. Would remove buddy systems and it would be all solo maps. So this was built with solo maps in mind. I don't think that we're blocking that possibility though, because you would just need a way for 2 players to both sign up for the match. This would be a down the road thing. I think it would definitely start with solo because that's the easiest implementation at the start. Adding duo maps though, for buddy system type stuff, should be possible. Where I'm kind of losing my train of thought right now is that I feel like that would go more along the lines of the friends feature that we do plan to build eventually, where it would be, instead of a play now button, you could have a play with friend button or something along those lines, and you would enter in the profile ID of the person who you want to do the buddy thing with, and then they would get a pop-up, and if you both click accept, then it would pull you, like something like that kind of thing. But for an initial implementation, I want to keep it simple. We'll say just solo for now, and definitely the opportunity to expand that to duos and more in the future. I don't think there's anything stopping us from that. I want to make a note of that down at the bottom. Only solo maps to start with the friends feature, an option to play buddy system type maps or any 2+ player map should be added. So so we'll build this, we'll make that spec separate and go from there. Good points though, thank you. All right, where are we? Inside the map tab, include every default racing map in addition to gravity maps. At dad/inspire list. What is that? Hopefully nothing sensitive come up there. Maps should not be added all at once, more than 5 at a time, oversaturation, yes. Okay, hovering over the name of the map generates a preview similar to the maps tab and the settings that the time trial will be completed with. There's a start trial or play now button next to each entry. Clicking on it will load the player directly into the game with the proper settings for that game. Do not allow players to select their own settings or multiple players to enter the same game. All right, in the profile settings inside the stat collection section, so we're just giving players the opportunity to not have their trials shown if they want to. I think that's a simple enough thing to offer. So right now we have a stat collection box down here, just record game stats. So we would just add another option next to that that says publish time trials, defaulting to enabled. So if anyone wants to turn that off, I don't know why they would want to, but they can. That's totally fine. Doesn't really change the amount of work that this is on the back end. So when the box is enabled, games completed are sent to the time trials tab at the end of the game. Yeah, I don't think we need to worry about this at all with the new implementation. So yeah, okay, that's good. Okay, fastest time submitted for each category for each goal will be listed. Default to just blank if there are no entries. To the right of the name of the player earning that time, their active flare. Yeah, so just like a leaderboard, it'll show. Whoops, where are we? So it would just show the same thing here. You've got your player, the flare that player has, and then their time next to it displayed under the map. For each of them, you would have your list of maps that you've completed, or sorry, the list of maps and the list of players who have completed that map. How many players do you think we should be showing for this? I think about like your speedruns.com kind of thing, or whatever the name of that site is. I forget, like Minecraft uses, where it shows like hundreds of people and it just keeps going. Would we want something closer to that, or something closer to just like the top 5 are displayed? I feel like I lean towards showing more of them. The question is just how to display that for so many maps. I think it would be a collapsed list, and if you want to expand the list, then it shows everybody. So it says top 10 here. I think we could expand that to top, I don't know, 20, 40, 50. Pick a number. Does anyone have thoughts on that? I feel like it's pretty unimportant what number we actually land on there. I'm just going to put a question mark here. Something similar to the ranked leaderboard where you can see your rank as well. Yeah, I fully agree with that. So click any row, blah, blah, blah. Instead of only top time, also display the rank and time of the active user in that list if they are ranked larger than 50. I think that makes sense to me. Total number not as important. Yeah. All right, that's good for me. Timestamp if possible. Oh yeah, so the other thing is, do we want to include when the time trial actually happened? I don't really think that's important personally, but some people care about that kind of stuff. Does anyone have any thoughts on that one? Oh yeah, forgot to say. So we had included initially that next to each trial there should be a recording of that trial, so you can watch. Yeah, I think that can stay the way that it is now. Cool to see if it's stood for a long time. Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. I guess I'll keep it in. Just if it's easy to do, we can do it. I'm going to get rid of this because we don't think there's going to be any way to spoof those. Okay, play icon to the right. Let's make this a sub point. A timestamp when that feature is included. So we have that now, so we could say including a timestamp. Oh, that's a good point, actually. So we have maps that are cyclical or that have checkpoints. How do you decide when it's actually started and when it's actually ended? I think it would have to be that the game ends whenever the time trial ends, so that the whole recording is that time trial, right? Because you wouldn't want a case where it's a gravity tower where you climb to the top and you might fall back down along the way. You don't have a way of saying that, okay, they fell down at 3 minutes and then they climbed to the top really fast. You can't just take that and say that's the time trial. Like, it would have to be from when you've loaded into the map to when you get to the top of the map. That is your full trial. Because if not, we're adding a whole layer of complexity to seeing when the player hits the lowest tile and then making sure they don't have any momentum when they do that. The map test reset button. Actually, that's not a bad point. If you, that's a really good. I'm not sure how that would work. Cause if you would need to restart the whole timer for the game too. So you would say if you press the restart button, maybe it takes you down to like 1 second before the game actually starts. I'm gonna have to talk to Bash about that because I don't know what kind of havoc that would wreak on the replay files. I know that replays work with resets. That part's fine. Resetting the clock might cause problems because we do have a game time limit. Like, games shouldn't last more than an hour. Would the replay reset when you do that? Would the replay include you resetting it? I'm not sure which one of those would be easier for him. All right, two things. Let me write down, include the date, time of the trial, if possible, and then how do we add this in? I like what you're getting at, Grant. Though I think that's a good point. So this would be a sub point under this here. Potentially allow the map test reset button to reset a time trial. It would have to bring the player back to the start, reset all elements, and reset the total time for the trial. Would this mess with replays? Would the replay include the reset? Preference. Resetting restarts the entire replay and all elements player positions. So that the full replay is just the trial that counted. It'd be annoying to miss the first jump and then have to kill. Yeah, I mean, you're entirely right. What's the biggest barrier to being able to export MP4 or WebM clips from the replays? That is a large question. As innocuous as it sounds. Is that the right word? I don't know. The way that Tag Pro works is you have a server and you have a bunch of socket messages to and from that server. We send that information out to all of the clients. You are a client if you are playing the game, and your computer takes all those sockets, puts them together in the way that we have told it to, and it shows you a bunch of things moving around on the screen. That is not anything close to what a WebM file is or what an MP4 file is, which are actual video. So the way that replays work is that we just basically make a fake game and then you play the fake game, and you're basically just watching yourself play the fake game, because we make a fake socket or fake server, and we send the real socket messages that we have just as if you were getting them from while you were in a game. So it has nothing to do with video footage at all. It's like making an MP4 out of that socket stuff is possible, but it's a lot of processing power, a lot of storage as well if you were going to keep them like that. And so this is something Bash has been looking at for a long time. And when Bash looks at something for a long time and doesn't have a good answer, it's a complicated problem. So it's definitely possible. The question is how much work is justified for getting these files. I think it would be a really, really important thing to add to the game eventually, but there's no clear path from what we have to what we want on that one, so it's kind of ground to a halt for now. If you happen to have some expertise in converting things to MP4 and you would like to share some thoughts, shoot me a DM and we'll have a little bit more of a chat, probably between you and Bash, because he has a much better understanding of this. But yes, I just got a DM from Kaiser Sozi. There's a hot dog truck about 1.2 miles from him, in case anyone was curious. So back to this. Resetting restarts the entire replay. So the one downside of this is that trials that did not finish would be lost in the replay if the replay resets. So just thinking about if a player wanted to watch back and say, oh, look at this one where I was so close to a really good time, but I had to restart it, that would be gone. It'd be wiped away because they finished a different one later. So I'm not sure that I love the solution that I have written down as my preference, but it's something we'll have to talk about more unless somebody has thoughts now. But moving on for now, we're saying there's a play button to actually try it. There's a date time of the trial, because why not? And then expand to show the top 50, and then your time if you're not in the top 50. So now players with a first place run will receive flare. See GitHub spec. First person to receive flare, and second through fifth. And then, I'm not sure why, I thought this was included in the spec, but I guess it's not. So players of the first place run receive flare, and second through fifth receive their own flares as well. If they lose their spot, they lose the flare. For the first week that a trial, that a map is, for the first week after a map is introduced, I guess after the, after a map has been introduced for 1 week, we want to look at all of the trials that have been attempted on that map, and we want to figure out a way to set standards for that map. So just going back to what I had mentioned before, if you are in first place through 5th of a map, you get a flare, but if you come above one of the 5 standards for every map, then you would also be eligible for that flare. So maybe you're 12th on every single map. That's still good enough for the first place flare because you've put in the work to get pretty good at all the maps. You just weren't quite good enough to be the top at any of the maps, kind of thing. So after map introduced for 1 week, take the, would it be like the average finishing times? Would it be the, like how would you set the standard on this? Yeah, you take out outliers, definitely. Take the, because you want to do the same thing at the top too, because if Big Bird comes along and he does something in 15 seconds and it takes me a minute and a half and I'm in second place, that's still a problem too. So I'd say maybe take the 6th through 100th finishing times maybe, or something like that. Percentiles, yeah, it'd be like a, take the, I don't know. Because the other problem is, what if you only have like 100 people who actually finish the map? Does that, like, how do you set the standards on that? You'd have to adjust the standards over time. I guess it could be a rolling thing. Manually set some levels. I don't, I think they would do it. I'm more concerned with the sustainability of things like that. I would rather take the times of people who are finishing these maps and then find a way to set a standard based off of those times. So maybe you take the average of the top 5 and you add a certain percentage to their time, and those percentages could be the standards. Write a couple of ideas down here. We'll decide on the actual thing later. Take the top 5 finishers, average them, add a percentage to their time for the standards. After a map has been introduced for 1 week, set standards for players to target. If a player beats the standard for every map, they earn the same flare as a top 5 finisher. 5 standards. So options for standards, we're saying take the top 5, average them, add a percentage. Then we're saying take the top, I don't know, 100 finishers, players, or total attempts. And use percentiles or standards. Any other thoughts on this one? I don't know if we need to round it necessarily. You either are or you aren't above that time, right? Josh says, what am I downloading when I download a replay file? If you look at it, it should be a JSON file. And you can look into it and you'll see numbers. And at each, so are you familiar with JavaScript at all? It's like it's an object. And then inside that object are a bunch of entries. And each entry is a timestamp of the game and the packet that was sent at that time. So if you look at I don't know if I have a good replay file to pull up real quick to show you. It's a lot easier to explain if you're looking at a replay right in front of you. But basically each item that you see is a moment in the game where a packet was sent. And so here we go. Actually, I don't know how to show this to the stream. Crap. Let's see if I can pull this up. Sorry, I'm changing the subject for a second, but it's a good question. Can I? Oh gosh, I don't know if I can do this. Sorry, guys. Maybe it's this? Nope, I can't do this. Sorry. Maybe if I... All right, I'm going to cheat real bad so that I can actually display what I'm looking at for you guys. I just don't want to show something that shouldn't be shown on stream by accident in terms of mod stuff and all that. So here, this is a snapshot of a replay file. So it's a JSON. Oh God, what is this? Stop. So you can see this is a replay file. So each one of these little numbers here on the left is a number of milliseconds after the game started that a certain message was sent out of that game. And so you can see that there's data in all these. Each of these little things that exists is a change that happened in the game. And this is the start of the game, so there's nothing exciting going on right now. But you can see the ID number 6, the 6th player to join the game, is not dead. That means they just respawned because they're not dead anymore. They pressed the second player to join the game, pressed the down key. It was their 5th key press, and they actually let go of the key. That's why it's a negative. Then they pressed the up key. So they let go of the down key, they pressed the up key. And that was their 5th and their 6th key press. It's the second player. So it reconstructs the entire game piece by piece for each packet that went to and from the server. And you're just rebuilding that on the client. So you think you're watching a video file, but it's actually just watching a game again in your browser. So it's really cool how it works, but it has nothing to do with video footage. That converting what you just looked at into a video is obviously not a super trivial process. So it's a bit of a challenge to address. So hopefully that answered your question. But back to this guy here. What else can we do to set standards at the top? So you could take the take standard deviations of top finishers, something to that effect. Back to Grant's rounding thing. Standards can be rounded to, do you think full seconds or tenths of seconds? I'm not against rounding, I just don't know if it's necessarily important. Yeah, sorry, Grant, I just couldn't show the right thing. I'll practice that off stream. I'm just not experienced enough to do stuff like that, and because I have information I don't want everyone seeing, I don't want to mess it up. So standards can be rounded up to like quarter seconds, half seconds, full seconds. I think quarter seconds is fine for display quality. You think full seconds? Okay. I worry about maps where a full second, if it's like a 15-second map, although maybe that's not. Are there maps that are that quick? Probably not. So yeah, okay, that's a non-issue. If we get there and we're like, wow, this is terrible, we'll just change it when we get there. Some roundings. You aren't asking players. Yeah, we all playing ranked after this, right? Says Stink Boy. I'd hop in for a couple of games probably. Think always round down. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. I feel like it should be rounded up if anything. Yeah. All right, that's good enough for now. For the standards, I'm still not sold on our solution so far. I'm biased because I made the first of the 3 here, but I feel like it still covers best, because you don't want to have times where players weren't trying, and you mentioned this yourself, Grant. You don't want to have times where players were just sitting around or taking a nap, factoring into those standards. You want the times where people were trying to set the standards for everybody else, so that it's just a reflection on how hard the map is, basically. And so if you take the top 5 finishers, those are the ones who are like, I want that flare, I'm going to get there, and then you set your standards based off of what they were able to do. I feel like that feel like that covers it well enough, but I don't know. I'm not sold on it. We'll see. We can come back to that later. That's good enough for now, for the spec at least. I'm not sure what this is here. I don't recognize what I'm reading here. There's a second tab with the same functionality listing all maps which has ever been in the public rotation. Ugh. Dig into other games. Yeah, see what other games, see what other racing games do for similar problems. I can set somebody on that task. Okay. So there's a second tab with the same functionality listing all maps which have ever been in the public. I don't like this at all. So I think this was saying that in addition to your racing maps, you have pub maps, and the goal is to just capture as quickly as you can on that map. I don't find that particularly exciting, I'll be honest. This was pre-trial maps as well, so I'm not sure how that would work. And then I feel like adding gravity is a much better supplement than adding in pub maps. I'm gonna delete this for now. If somebody strongly disagrees, we can talk about it more. I'll leave this a little bit lower down. So let's take it from the top, see what we're missing here. I feel like this is in a decent spot for now. So inside of the leaderboard tab list, you have time trials. Inside of that, you have every default racing map. So just to confirm that, you've got private game, you've got your racing, and then you've got all these maps here that we have already vetted. If you have other racing maps that you'd like to add, we can do that pretty easily. Just let me know. But we currently have a decent list of racing maps. And so we're saying, in addition to all of those maps, we're adding in a list of gravity maps as well. And we're not going to add them all at once. It's going to be like 5 at a time. Question about that with the settings. Where'd the settings go? Settings at time trial. How many laps? How many laps? 1 lap? 3 laps? 1, 3. So, like, traditionally, racing has always been 3 laps, but is that too much? Is that too different from the way gravity would work? It wouldn't change too much in terms of the end result. It would just be longer times, I guess. But let's see. There used to be a use every boost bomb before capping time trial. I don't know. I don't know if we could do that. That would have to be a larger project. I mean, maybe something could be done about that in the future, but yeah, I'm not sure about that. Would it be possible to include this as an option instead of minigames for an as you wait activity? Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that would be a super doable thing. In terms of how to add it, not sure, but having people go into another game while they wait for a game is already what we're doing. So just changing where they're going, very, very doable for that. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. I don't mind that at all. That would be more of a follow-up thing. We'd add this, make sure it works, and then say, okay, can we plug this into the joiner? And I think the answer there is absolutely yes. But that's a good thought. It's a good thought to be having so far. Someone not having finished all games. Someone. Oh. Someone not having the finish all games setting enabled and being in the middle of a record-breaking run, but then getting pulled out of it to play a game would be, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. That would be one of the things we consider if we get that far. So let's focus back on this. Anybody have thoughts about the 1 versus 3 laps on racing maps? I think I prefer 3 for now, just because that's what racing has always been. But we can see where things land on that later. So we have a start trial or a play now button next to each entry. Clicking on it loads the player directly into the game with the proper settings and all that. Don't allow them to select their own settings. Don't allow multiple players in. So ensure that there's no map test like URL that others and join. And then, yeah, gravity being 1 cap is fine. And those are both very doable with the settings themselves, because we can just say that it's a 1 cap maximum or a 3 cap maximum. So that's super easy to do for either option. So in profile settings, in the stat collection, we're adding a checkbox. It says publish time trials. Everyone has it enabled. If you want to disable it because you don't want your time trials displayed for whatever reason, that's fine. Fastest time submitted in each category, in each row, listed. To the right is so you have your flare and your player, like we have all other leaderboards. You have your time that they completed it in. And then we have a replay button that says watch or play or whatever, and then the date of the actual replay. So that's fine. That's there. Then we have, maybe with the reset thing, that's going to be more of a conversation for the dev team later to see if it's viable or possible. Not sure how to handle replays. I think right now the easiest implementation would be you join the game. Whenever you end the game by scoring or whatever, that is your time trial. So if you had to reset in the middle because you fell to the bottom, tough, which isn't ideal, like Grant was saying, because if you miss the first jump, it kind of sucks to have to restart the whole thing and leave the game and go back in. But it's the easiest implementation for now, so we'll keep it simple, and then if we can improve it in the future, we will. But good thoughts there. Clicking on a row or the map will expand the map down so you can see the map and you can see the top 50 times. Probably some distinction, some distinction for the top 5 players with the top 5 players displayed to make it clear that earning a top 5 spot earns a flare. Okay, that's good there. So players in first place receive a flare. Second through fifth have their own flare. If you lose your spot, you lose your flare. After 1 week, set standards for each map, where if you're above the standard for every map, 1 through 5, you get the 1 through 5 flare. If a new map is added, you lose the flare after that first week if you didn't meet the standard during that first week. Kind of similar to how the event master works, where you have the flare during an event, but if the event ends and you don't have that flare, then you would lose event master. So if you have the time trial flare for all the standards, a week goes by, you didn't hit the new standard when it gets released, then you would lose your flare until you meet those standards for all the new maps. I think that's fine. And then down the road consideration, solo maps, group maps, stuff like that, which would probably go with the friends feature. So anything that we're missing on that subject? Any thoughts? Feeling pretty good about that. I think it integrates gravity pretty seamlessly, and it also opens up the opportunity for other maps to be added, different like time trial specific maps, kind of stuff like that, with more technical routes and things if people wanted to do that for non-gravity. Yeah, all right, I think that's a good enough stopping point for me for that. Do we need to update this at all, or does this still cover what we're doing? I think that covers it well enough because the document is linked right there, so that's good. Yeah, okay, I'm happy with that. I'm trying to remember what else I said I was going to do on the stream. We have the dev updates. We talked about the candy board. We did that. I think I just said maybe we would come back to some of the under review stuff, but we're getting close to 2 hours as it is now. And I'm not sure I have a lot more energy in me to keep going. Maybe let's sort by oldest real quick, see if any under review ones. That's funny. Still have that. Have changed. I feel like this came up at some point. Reverse gravity well. Let's see if I can find anything there. I thought something related to gravity wells just got added, but I can't find. Okay, yeah, so that we have a recent addition here, which was add a private group setting to control how strong gravity wells pull or push within some reasonable parameters. And I think that came up. That's the relevant candy post there. So I think I just want to add in this one as well. Where am I? There I am. So we're going to say this is now planned. Ticket for more control over gravity well strength and direction of push has been added or submitted internally. And I don't know if this has been worked on yet, so I'm going to put our usual, oh gosh, put our usual spiel there. But put that there, and then I just want to add that into the other ticket as well. Yeah. Okay, good. So that's good there. All right. Is there anything else? Oh yeah, sorry. Another question from Josh on replay. So does the web browser have everything it needs to play replay files, or it literally needs to stream it to the server? Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're asking if it has to set up a server connection and then play the game from the no. So it's a fake server in the replay. So the game, your computer connects to a server. When you play a game, you load in, you connect to a server. The server tells you what's happening in that game as it happens. That's how you play Tag Pro. You send messages out, the server sends messages back. With a replay in that file, like the one that I showed you guys there, your browser is still getting messages from a socket connection, but that socket connection is a fake server. So you're not actually connected to a remote server. You're connected to a server as far as your computer knows, but that server is just the site sending you the files as they were received during the game itself. So you could do everything totally fine without an internet connection if you had, actually, yeah, I think it would still work. I'm thinking about my local database where I can play replays for myself without internet. I think it would work the same way in your browser. If you turned off your internet but you had the site loaded up, I think it would still play the replay because all the information that the game needs or that your computer needs to play that replay back is in that file. So there's no remote connection set up for that at all. It's all just what's in the file coming to you in order as it was sent during the game. Hopefully that answers your question. If you have more detailed questions, Bash might be able to help you more with that because he built most of this. This is all based off of the old VCR website, if you're familiar with that. For those who are not, let me just pull it up real quick because it was a pretty cool thing. I think it was made by Kera initially, Kera. And then Bash took it over. I have it pulled up here, where you could upload a recording and you could play that recording here. So what this would do is you would have a script called the VCR script, and you would play a game. And while you are playing that game, that script would take all of those socket messages we've been talking about, and at the end it would download a file to your computer that was everything that had happened during that game. So then you would take that file, you would come to this website, you would upload that file, and this file knew how to, or this website knew how to read that file as if it was a game, and it would play that game back to you as though you were in the game watching a recording. So the replay feature on the website is based directly off of that implementation because Bash took this project over, updated it, added some features, and then became a developer and then just built it right into the game. So now everything that I just said with the script and with the files downloading and all that is just handled by Tag Pro itself. So the game is now watching all of those packets. It saves it to our database. And then if you want to download it, we send you that file. You can download that file. If you don't, you can just watch it directly from the site because it will just send those packets from the database file that we have anyway right to you. So it's a really, really cool feature. And it works quite well for what it is because it looks like you're watching a video, but you're not. You're watching a much, much different kind of media when you do that. So good questions, though. So I think that's a good stopping point for me. Is there anything else that anybody would like to talk about for today? Oh, the VCR script used to be able to export WebM files. I'm not familiar with that. I don't doubt it. I think part of the problem with that would be the time to render. I know that Anam recently made a script where you could take a replay file and it would generate a video from it, but it's a very slow process. So that's probably the same barrier that we have right now, where we know how to do it, but not how to do it efficiently or consistently. And then storage on the other side, obviously we would only do it at user request. We wouldn't be doing it for all replays because that would just be way too much data. But a good question for Bash if you want to know more about that. And yeah, so I'm going to call it quits there. Thank you everyone who tuned in this time around. I appreciate the help putting these things together. I'll try to have some more stuff set up for next Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern as well. And if you haven't seen, I am uploading these on YouTube now. I finally got the last two up. YouTube was giving me some trouble on that, so it should be good to go now. But yep, that's all I got. I will talk to you all at some point in the future, I'm sure. If you ever want to volunteer for anything, send me a DM. I could always use helpers with some other stuff related to marketing. Yeah, all right. Talk to you later. Goodbye.